Cheers.
Cheers.
This is the second episode of Me and Mine. My name's Cory, and this is
Deanna.
And we're getting into communication today, specifically communication with the self. We were communications majors in college, and we had a radio show. We were talking all things communication, aliens, consciousness, spirituality, health and wellness, all that good stuff. So we're bringing that here now to YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all of it.
Yep.
So communication has to do with communication everywhere, not just with yourself, not just with other people, but with God, with random people on the street, with your dog, with nature, with everything, right? And I'd like to hear maybe just your thoughts on communication with yourself. Like how does that play in your life?
I think communication with myself has played the biggest role out of anything because I learned how to talk to myself and how to differentiate different things coming through my brain. And that ultimately led me to have this deep self-awareness of my own consciousness.
What does that mean?
I feel like I am no longer walking around in a state of going through the motions, letting the thoughts kind of rule your life. I feel like the communication with myself has allowed me to be much more present, much more in the moment, actually feel the impact that my words have on the world when they come through my brain, and then when they come out of my mouth out loud, it's much easier for me to sort of filter through that rather than just like word vomiting whatever's coming out.
So basically knowing yourself in a way that allows other people to know you better without getting rid of all the noise.
Getting rid of all the noise. Yeah. And then other people knowing you better sort of allows you to have that like true relationship with them, that like deep level of vulnerability that leads you to like a really beautiful connection. Like, what does your relationship, your communication with your own self look like or feel like?
I'd say I've cultivated a sense of loving communication with myself, but I don't think it always was that way.
How was it?
I think in the past, growing up, you kind of, when you're growing up, you take exactly what your parents are and download that into you.
Yeah.
You take exactly what your friends and your teachers and your peers are, and you download that into you, and you become the sum of those who surround you. So all of these tendencies that these people that surrounded us as we grew up, we took that into our consciousness. We became that thing. So I think a lot of times we don't even have the choice of how we communicate to ourselves because we've just unconsciously, subconsciously taken that from other people.
And you just sort of like become that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, I've recognized in myself, I think from my mom, there's a sense of worry, sometimes like anxiety about things in the future. Like I'm thinking about 10 steps ahead, worrying, what's going to happen next week. Who gives a fuck what happens next week? Well, who cares what happens next month, next year? Or not who cares, obviously it matters, but like there's no any reason to worry about it. It comes when it comes. I think for my dad, I got a sense of perfection. Like this has to be this way. You follow what I'm saying? Where these different tendencies that our parents and our peers have
you
become our own.
Yeah, and then you have pieces of them inside of you. And not all of them are positive. Or not all of them are things that you want to carry on. So it's kind of sifting through those things and figuring out what parts of myself did I take from my parents and my teachers and my coaches growing up that I do resonate with and are a part of me, and what parts, am I just going to sort of let go?
And what parts are those? What are those parts for you?
I think those parts for me, I mean, growing up, I was definitely like the funny one. I was very talkative in school. I always like was making jokes and making people laugh. And like to that extent, like those qualities do sort of carry over into who I am today. Like I enjoy a good laugh and I'm always cracking a joke. I am very talkative. I'm sitting here choosing to do a podcast because I love to talk. But then there's also like other sides of me that like playing sports, it was like that level of perfectionist. Like I started cheering at a very young age and I had a coach who was just sort of like, do it again until it's perfect. Do it again until it's perfect and then make it more perfect. So I do have that high standard that I hold myself to. And through my own communication with myself, I have been able to figure out that root is definitely in my cheering days, because it was repetition, and do it until it's fucking perfect.
Do you think that helps you though?
I think in ways it helps me. I think in ways it helps me stay productive. I think in ways it helps me do things really well. I'm not like the kind of person who really does things half-assed. Like if I care about something, I'm going to like put my all into it. So in ways you can sort of like use those more negative traits like as your superpower. But you don't like, I don't give them like too much power, right? Because then I would want my whole world to be perfect and there's no such thing as perfect. And then that's just a whole plethora of perfectionist things, issues. Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't recognize these tendencies in themselves though. Mm-hmm. Most people don't recognize these tendencies or even question why they are the way they are. Mm-hmm. And
yeah.
I don't think I did most of my life.
So at what point did you question them? At what point did you start to like be a little bit curious with yourself? Where were you at in your life?
I started taking some acid, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
yeah.
Like you take a couple psychedelics, you start smoking a little pot, and you question like, why am I here right now? Mm-hmm. And my world started to crash down. I realized like I wasn't happy with who I was. Like the world started caving in a bit, where it was like all these things that I thought made me happy were just like ultimately a positive feedback loop that were going to lead to my own demise.
Yeah.
It was just like chasing this thing in football that I didn't even love. It was smoking the vape all the time and just like constantly thinking, this will be the hit. It'll feel better. And then it's like you just keep hitting it. The food, just eating unhealthy food all the time, trying to fill a void with sugar and high fructose corn syrup and like I think I hit a point where I don't know if it was drug induced or meditation induced or just self induced, hitting the ground and realizing, holy shit, I hit rock bottom. I mean, and thankfully for me, rock bottom wasn't that low.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of people get a lot lower than I did.
Right.
But from my subjective rock bottom,
right,
it was like, who am I? And that question arose, and there was like this curiosity that arose in myself of, why am I this way? And I started diving into myself and writing and meditating and sitting in silence, just like looking at the trees and thinking.
Yeah.
And that was something I never did. I was drowning out my own thoughts with South Park and
weed.
And
yeah. I was the same way. I think that the rock bottom thing is something I've heard from like many people who sort of go on this spiritual awakening, journey to the self, cultivating this like deep sense of self-awareness, whatever you want to call it, where like you do kind of hit the lowest point and whatever that looks like for you. And it's just like you're forced back in to your own consciousness. You're forced back into your body because you've drowned it out for so long. You've silenced it for so long. Like you have to listen to it. It's forcing you to listen to it. And like you said, whether that was through drugs or your own whatever, you still got there.
Yeah. There's different paths for everybody.
Mm-hmm. And who's Cory now? Through all of that.
I think I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
I think that's like the process in life. Mm-hmm. It's just like constantly figuring it out, constantly curious, constantly asking questions. And no matter how well you think you know yourself, no matter how well you think you know the world, no matter how well you think you know your partner, there's layers to it, and it keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yep. Yeah. Nothing's like that simple. It's all multi-leveled, multi-dimensional. Like it's just this like very fascinating, beautiful web of stuff that happens in our own consciousness and in our own mind that creates who we are and the experience that we live in this human life.
Yeah. It's ultimately something that I've come to think about is how everything is in relation. Mm-hmm. Our entire experience of reality, ourselves, mm-hmm. each other, is all in relation. Me to you, me to me, me to God, me to the nature, right? It's like our self is the landing point and we are the center of our universe. Mm-hmm. Like our universe, right? Mm-hmm. Singular, extends outward from us. Like when we think about the world, it's extending outward 360 degrees from us.
Yeah.
Right? And like we are the center.
You're the center, yeah.
Exactly. So our entire understanding of reality, of everything that's going on, is in relation to something else. When we think about the sun, we're thinking about our relationship to the sun. Mm-hmm. When we think about our emotions, we're thinking about our relationship to ourself.
Right, because you're the one looking out at everything else going on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When we look at our future, it's our relationship to the future. Mm-hmm. Our friends and our family, they're all relationships. Like without everything else outside, there wouldn't be this self, right? So it's like the world, like we were saying before, is like you are the sum of who you're surrounded by. The world quite literally creates you. Mm-hmm. You are created by the world. And obviously we are our own creation, which I believe we take the world through our own perception and create ourselves. But ultimately the world shapes how you can perceive and create yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is why, like you said at the beginning, when you're growing up and your parents and your teachers and your friends and everybody around you helps create you, helps give you that identity, those labels, those personality traits. And it's heavily impacted by all of those outside relationships.
Yeah. It is an interesting concept to like visualize yourself as the center of the universe.
Mm-hmm. But we all do. I'm the center of my universe.
Of course.
That's just how I see everything. How's this going to affect me?
We as humans believed that we were the center of the universe until what, a couple hundred years ago?
Yeah.
Until Galileo came around.
Yeah.
Said, hey guys.
He's like, wait.
And the church was like, put him up, Galileo.
Yeah. They hated that guy.
They didn't like that.
They hated that guy.
I like Galileo.
He was onto something. I mean, obviously he was onto something, but they really shut him down. And he knew what was up.
Yeah. Because like in truth, we aren't the center of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
We're the center of our exactly. We're the center of our universe, as far as we know. Right. Our perception. Mm-hmm. But there's 8 billion other centers of the universe on our planet.
Yeah. Sometimes when I think about like how big the world really is, or how many people there really are, it's almost like overwhelming or like incomprehensible. Like, there are so many people here. There are so many people with so many different lives and circumstances and relationships and things that we can't even wrap our head around it. I can't even wrap my head around it. All of those people communicating with themselves, communicating with others, communicating with family. It's like this massive web of global consciousness, and it all ebbs and flows like on each other. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah.
Like, it's all interconnected.
Yeah. And I think if we're talking about like on a global scale, like human consciousness as a whole, I think a lot of people went through that deep communication, connection with the self during COVID. There was a massive shift globally in the human consciousness during 2020.
Yeah.
Something was in the air. And not just COVID, because that's whatever. But something was in the air collectively.
Why do you think that was?
I don't know. I think maybe humanity sort of needed it. I think if we went on the trajectory we were on, I don't really know where we would be as a whole.
Do you think we're still on that trajectory?
I think the human consciousness as a collective has become more self-aware. And I think that that's a positive.
Self-aware in what way?
All the way down to the self. Like, I think individuals have woken up to their own thoughts, their own communication, their own cultivation of the self, which has led to their relationships with others to be more meaningful, more present, more free, which has led to relationships with others. I think it's just spread. Like, when you hit that rock bottom and you started to talk to yourself, sit down with yourself, really figure out who you were. What year was that?
2020.
Me too. I think a lot of people went through that experience during that time.
It's interesting that the one thing that drove people apart and divided them more than ever brought them closer together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it was a tragic time. Like, of course. But I think after all of it was said and done, as a collective on a global scale, it was a net positive.
It wasn't that positive. Mm-hmm. Because by separating people, people awoke. Mm-hmm. I mean, the shot, the mandates,
mm-hmm.
all of that.
The rules, everyone was like, wait.
Exactly.
Why are we being told what to do? Why are we listening?
Yeah. And that's what drove me to start questioning, like, why am I here? Mm-hmm. Like, how did we get here? Why am I being alienated for my choices? Why don't I trust the people that are in power? And that ultimately, my distrust and my questioning of what was going on outside of me started driving me within myself.
Exactly.
Why am I here? Not why am I here physically? Why am I here? Why are we in this place as a society? But why am I here? How did this awareness get in my brain? Mm-hmm. Why are these thoughts arising in my brain? And who is that? Mm-hmm. Like, there's somebody thinking, but there's somebody listening.
Yeah, that's what it was for me. It was there's somebody thinking, but who's listening? And that was huge because I was listening. That's who's inside, the person listening. And
but it's not a person.
Yeah.
It's not
but
a
just
person.
to put it in more like plain terms to like kind of comprehend.
Yeah, like ultimately, like, I mean, we're talking about self-communication, and I think a big part for me was understanding that I'm not the voice inside of my head. Mm-hmm. The biggest part in my self-communication was understanding I'm not the voice inside of my head. That voice speaks. Mm-hmm. That voice speaks, but I listen. That's the thing, is I listen. The I is the awareness inside of me that observes.
Yeah.
Right? This mind, this body is different than the awareness, the observer, the spirit inside of me. And the spirit is the one that observes objectively. Right?
Yeah.
It's just blank awareness. When a baby comes out and it's pure consciousness.
Yeah.
That's the awareness, right? And then our through this socialization process, our mind is shaped into this weird person, this weird ego that we call ourselves. Cory, Deanna. We have these beliefs about the world and about ourselves, about God, about who we are. And then everything that happens externally has to go through that filter. It's like we have a pair of glasses on, but we never take the glasses off.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what COVID happened. And I took the fucking glasses off. And I looked at myself and I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. I think also like COVID gave us the time to really be with the self, because we couldn't do anything. We couldn't go anywhere. So you had that time to sit and be curious with yourself and take those glasses off, and not only take the glasses off, but then explore what was underneath all of that.
Yeah. That was for me, it was that awareness. And I mean, it took a little bit of stoned Call of Duty and getting bullied on Xbox every night for me to realize it. Took some drugs and a couple times sneaking out in the woods.
Yeah.
Smoking some pot.
Yeah, that's what I did. Me and my siblings would get together we built like a little shed during COVID, and we would go in there and get stoned, and we would talk about life. We would talk about everything, who we are to each other, especially as siblings. I mean, siblings are such a unique thing where you, for the most part, in most circumstances, you're socialized the same way. Same parents, same house, same school. Generally speaking, I mean, I grew up very small town, so we all experience that sameness, and it makes talking about yourself, understanding yourself, easier when you have siblings to talk about it with, because they lived pretty much the same life you did. Yeah. That helped me a lot.
Talking to your siblings?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you guys talked about it a lot, but what was it in particular about that do you think that helps you? Was it being like vulnerable with them? Was it talking about the past and processing stuff that maybe you had separate experiences of? Was it?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think it was definitely like a level of vulnerability we've probably like never shared together. I mean, I've always been very close with my siblings, but I did feel like during COVID, we were like the closest we've ever been. And that was definitely cultivated through that vulnerability with each other of just like, this is how I saw my mom or our mom, like, how did you see her? Or what was your take on this event? And then through sharing past experiences that we all had together, it was like, well, how did it affect you? And how did it affect me? And then how did it affect us as a family? My grandpa died when I was very young, and we talked a lot about like how that death affected each one of us, and then how the effect on us affected our relationships as a whole. And the conclusion really was I became the funny one because I was really young and the baby in the family and goofy, and everyone was like, oh, like, let's just look at the cute kid, even though we're sad. So I was the funny one. My brother became the worrier, and my sister kind of became like a second mom of like being the responsible one and making sure me and my brother were okay. So we all kind of like took on roles and like personality things through one experience. And think about how many experiences you go through in your life that shape, you as a whole. So yeah, that definitely helped me understand myself and then understand my relationship with my family. Yeah. How'd
that start, like those conversations?
A little bit of pot. And we were bored. It was COVID. We were sick of talking about the number on the TV of people dying going up. We were sick of talking about when we were going to see our friends again. We didn't want to talk about any of that stuff. And we were all sort of going through a spiritual awakening, which we didn't even really realize was happening until after that. We were all like going through it together, and sort of like using each other to guide us through it. So it was very natural. It was just like, let's go in the shed, let's start smoking and pick a topic and go. Yeah. It also felt very nostalgic for me and my siblings to be in a house all together, because we hadn't been in a house all together in a couple of years. I was off in college. My sister had already moved out, so we hadn't been together like that since we were kids. So it did feel nostalgic to like be back home in our bedrooms with our parents and that sort of thing.
Understood.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very pivotal.
It's interesting. Probably not the same person. Definitely not the same person.
Definitely not the same person. Definitely not the same person. I'm not the same person every single day. I'm a different person every day. And that's been something that I've had to figure out.
You talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, you're my boyfriend, so you kind of know I'm not the same person every day. I kind of show up different every day. I think a massive part of that is sort of like being a woman and having a menstrual cycle, and acknowledging that that's okay, that you don't have to show up as a constant every day. You can be up and down and left and right and all over the place, because that's who women are at their core, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, it's interesting seeing you, and then I'm pretty constant.
You're very constant. Yeah, you're the most constant thing I know. Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Well, you think about it like this. The masculine energy is represented by the sun. The sun comes up every day. The sun goes down every day. It's always there. Whether it's cloudy, whether it's raining, it doesn't matter. The sun's always there, up and down, constant. The moon is represented by feminine energy. The moon looks different every single day. It's on a 30-day cycle. That's how women operate. On a 30-day cycle. Men operate on a 24-hour cycle, like the moon, like the sun. So we kind of mirror what's going on up above us.
As above, so below.
Exactly.
It's the same principle.
Yeah. And in a relationship, man and woman, doesn't even matter, masculine, feminine energy, whoever's holding that pole. As the masculine energy, the more you understand the feminine energy, the easier it is for you to understand your partner. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the things that I do, I think a lot of guys get caught up on the idea of they have to be manly.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of guys get caught up on the idea that they have to be manly. And what is manly, right? Mm-hmm. What is manly? Is manly having hair in your chest and talking about bitches and and talking about sex and providing for your house? Like, maybe that's manly. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's manly by some people's definition. But like, I think being in your divine masculine is different than being manly.
I agree.
So, like, I don't know. I feel that I'm manly, right? Mm-hmm. But I have a fucking diary, mm-hmm. and I write about myself, and I ask myself questions, and I try and push out tears when I can. I try and cry mm-hmm. so that it's not sitting inside of me. Mm-hmm. And I write songs, and I sing, and people would say I'm a girly boy. I have long hair, and I write poems and sing to my girlfriend. Mm-hmm. I'm a girly boy. Mm-hmm. But
but you're not.
But I'm not.
Yeah.
It's me being in touch with the feminine side of things and being able to flow through life, being able to tap into that feminine energy, merge it with the masculine, merge it with the part of me that wants to lift a bunch of weights and be go, and build a business from the ground up and go to jujitsu and roll around with a bunch of sweaty dudes and try and overpower people. Talk about money and do all these things that are masculine.
Right.
Right? When you take that feminine and you pair it with the masculine, that's where the creative force comes from. That's where the drive to actually create comes from.
Yeah.
Because as a man, I wouldn't have any desire to create anything if women weren't in the world.
Exactly. And like, I think for you, a big part of your communication with yourself was discerning the masculine and feminine within yourself, because we hold both. And that's exactly what it was. You need both.
Yeah. And also going into my past too is like, you hear a lot of people talk about like child work and past trauma. And I think a lot of people talk about it and they don't quite grasp it. Right. And maybe I don't quite grasp it, but at the same time, going in and all those times that somebody called you gay, how many times was I called gay when I was, oh, that's gay, that's stupid, that's girly, oh, you have a diary, oh, you like to draw, like that's weird, right?
Yeah.
All these things you heard when you were younger, they get downloaded into your consciousness, and you got to go in there and dig that shit out, or else that's going to sit with you forever.
Yeah.
Or you're going to be 45 years old saying, oh, I don't draw because that's gay. You could have been Picasso.
Right. But now you're not drawing because you think it's gay. And that doesn't even make sense. Like, draw.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Lean into your gifts. And a lot of times your gifts are feminine, especially as a man. You see a man that's good at painting or writing songs, or you see a man that's good at talking to women. That's feminine. Being able to sweet talk a girl, that's feminine.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like leaning into these gifts that you have. And a lot of times these gifts are feminine, especially as a man. If you can have a good balance between that and know yourself in that way, to be able to take advantage of that and actually put it out in the world, that's where you create great things in life.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And learning how to flow in and out of your masculine and your feminine, or when you need more of your masculine and when you need more of your feminine to come into play, that is so powerful. So powerful. As soon as you learn how to do that, it's like, it's not even learn how to do that. It's more just embrace it. Just accept it. Accept that it's there.
Well, it's a learning process for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to constantly remind myself of these things.
Yeah.
And I wrote my journal this morning. I have it right here. Right? I am affluent. I am magnetic. I am abundant. Great. Masculine qualities, right? All caps. Let's fucking go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm abundant. I am magnetic. I am affluent, right? And then, let me bring it back to earth. I am gracious. I am careful. I am gentle. I am intentional. I am generous. I am present. The feminine qualities bring me back down to earth.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like being able to like consciously, it's alchemy.
Yeah.
It is alchemy. To be able to use your words and be able to switch between these polarities.
Yeah.
Masculine, femininity, gender, right? Like switch between those different polarities and play with them. That's alchemy. That's how you create the life that you want. Look at all these successful people in our world who are able to master these things.
Yeah.
And be successful in business, be successful in life, be successful in all different facets.
Yeah.
Look at books like Think and Grow Rich. Look at books like 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. It's about taking these qualities and using them for personal gain, yes. But also if you take these qualities and use them for personal gain in order to help other people, it serves others.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't want to get it. That's a whole other topic. But
It's all relevant.
It's all relevant. It's the idea that you have to have a balance in your life to be able to show up truly as yourself, to be able to be honest and transparent with yourself.
Yeah. I think a massive part of my journey back to my feminine energy was through being in a relationship with you. Because when we met, I was heavily in my masculine energy. and I was very rigid and didn't trust anybody and refused to surrender and had like these massive walls up. And yeah, through our relationship, I sort of realized like, oh, my masculine energy is really only how I operate. That was all I was running on. And you kind of helped me come out of that.
You're so gentle and gorgeous.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't want to be gentle and gorgeous in front of anybody. It was the vulnerability thing. It was just like, I don't know. I didn't want to show people who I really was because it was scary.
What about that was scary for you?
I think that I thought by like being gentle and gorgeous, like, guys don't think that's hot. Like, guys say that they want you like in your, like they want a girl, but they don't want a girl in her feminine energy. Because like I was saying before, that girl's not showing up the same way she is every day. And they don't like that. That's like, whoa, too much for them to handle. Too much for them to handle if they're not holding the masculine principle in its full.
There's a lot of lady boys out there now.
There's a lot of lady boys out there. There's a lot of boys in their feminine energy, and there's a lot of girls in their masculine energy. A lot. And then there's boys with that like toxic masculine, and then there's girls in that toxic feminine, and vice versa. And it also like has nothing to do with gender, because you can, like I said, I was a girl and I was like full on masculine energy, and I still looked the same. I dressed the same, but it was my persona. It was my attitude. It was how I ran through the world. And coming back to my feminine was like, oh, it was so freeing. It's like, oh, this is so true. This is so gentle and kind.
That was something you missed?
Yeah, I think that was something I missed. And then that also helped me be vulnerable and like completely surrender to loving you, to being in a relationship with you, the whole thing. Mm-hmm.
I think our relationship has brought out the qualities. Like, being with you has helped me polarize in both directions. Like, I've stepped into my masculine more, but I've also stepped into my feminine more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And now, like, when I am in my masculine, like, it doesn't feel as all consuming. It's easy for me to come in, come out.
Yeah. I mean, I see it on it. I mean, obviously I show up. I aim to show up the same every day. Some days that happens, some days that doesn't happen. But I mean, I go from waking up in the morning and run whatever. I was training for that marathon. I run 10 miles, super masculine, come home, meditate, super feminine, take a nice shower, write in my journal about my gratitude, and then maybe write a poem or something like that. Super feminine. Mm-hmm. And then dive into my day, fucking crunching numbers, editing videos, client calls, trying to make sales, not trying to make sales, making sales. and super masculine. Mm-hmm. Step out for lunch. You're gonna cook some food, nice and easy in the silence, and then go outside and play with my dog and throw the ball around and walk around barefoot. Super feminine. Then we're back into videos, more sales, mm-hmm. and then we finish it up. We go to jiu-jitsu all gassed up, and then it's like, oh, we come home, we eat some food and drink some tea before I go to bed. So it's like my day is constant waves and waves.
Yeah, and that has given you your relationship with yourself. Because that feels so much more like you than you 4 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what I don't quite exactly remember what my day-to-day would have looked like 4 years ago had I had the freedom I do now. I mean, I make my own schedule. Mm-hmm. But I know 4 years ago my day wouldn't look like that.
Yeah.
I have to keep myself accountable
Or
every
feel
day.
like that.
Yeah, feel like that. Like I enjoy what I do every day. Genuinely.
Yeah.
Like I wake up and I'm excited to wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is because I hold myself accountable. And I've come to know myself and know what I want and know what's worth it.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, what's worth it? Is it worth it to feel good for a couple minutes, for an hour? Is it worth it to hang out with these people tonight? Is it worth it for me to make this decision and not get my work done? Is it worth it? Like, what is it? It's the delayed gratification that feels better.
Yep.
Right?
Of course.
It's better. It's more rewarding for me to put my time and energy into you and have an amazing relationship, a conscious relationship where we're open and transparent with each other, and me to put my time every day and just plug away at this quantum creations business because it's going to be something amazing.
Yeah.
It already is.
It is something amazing.
And I plug away, and just those the little action every day just compounds into something great.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
And that's given you a true, free, beautiful life.
So far, yeah. I think it's only going to keep doing that.
Yeah. Now that you have that awareness and love, it's we can only go up from here.
It's only up. We were talking about yesterday. It's only up.
It's only up.
Only up.
You can't unknow these things.
It's impossible.
Once you know, you know.
Yeah, you know. You know.
Are you laughing?
I don't know. It's just funny. We're breaking the fourth wall.
I know. It felt very Deadpool.
Yeah. Breaking the fourth wall. Bringing you guys back in. But we're going to bring you guys back out. And we're cutting the episode. It's done. I'm joking. But no, for real. Me and my beautiful girlfriend are completing this conversation. We're going to record another podcast today. We didn't dive into everything that we were going to talk about, so maybe we have another whole episode about it.
We'll swing it over to the next one.
Swing it over. Self-communication and self-love and curiosity and diving into the past and our consciousness being downloaded from our parents and figuring out why and
figuring out who you are.
Who the fuck am I?
Who are you?
Maybe that's the name of the podcast. Who the fuck am I?
Who the fuck am I?
Who the fuck am I?
And you never know. Like even when you know, you still don't know.
I don't know who the fuck am I.
So it just keeps going forever on a loop.
Who the fuck am I?
Who the fuck am I?
That's the name of this podcast.
That's perfect.
So I love you. Maybe we should kiss over the microphones.
Do you really want to? Cheers.
All right. Love you. Her too.